Most people just do a general S curve or a fade to the blacks. There is so much more to curves, color curves, how you can use the curves, how you use curves in combination with other tools. There is so much more to this, but this is going to be beginner so you can get the foundation, so you can later recreate any style if you practice enough. Maybe get to the stage where I am, where I can look at an Instagram feed and have a very good idea on just what curves they are using. Because most of the videos I see out there, the advice would just leave you working with the curves for an hour and then realizing the original actually looks better than what you've been doing for hours with the curves. We need to understand them as a scientific tool. Like, what does it do? You have to understand the curve because it is probably 70% of all these styles I'll show you. If you get good at the curves, you really can start to create any style you want. It's kind of the secret to how I've done so many YouTube tutorials recreating styles, is because I learnt the curves. I understood the power of these curves way back in 2017, and that's why I was able to get such great results with these tutorials. Like, look at someone's Instagram and know what kind of curve they were using. Okay, so let's get into it. We have a box here, and the box represents every shade of your image. Okay, so you've got very dark pixels and you have very bright pixels in your image, and the box represents this. This is affecting the blacks, this is affecting the whites, and how I like to explain it is, so it's blacks over here on your left and whites over on your right, and then this axis, the y-axis, is how bright or how dark you are making your image. So how bright, how dark, and then, so y-axis up and down, how bright, down, how dark, and then the x-axis, so across here is where in our image. Do we want to brighten or darken the bright parts of our image, or do we want to brighten or darken the dark parts of our image? And it's a square, so we can brighten or darken any part of our image. Okay, has nothing to do with color at the moment. So if we come across to this one here, this is exactly the same. It's just that we can't plot points on it. We use sliders instead. So this is just easier in the sense it just gives big movements to the points, so we don't have to go dot, 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 dot. Like, we've just got these automatically set highlights or lights. We can do these nice curves without the need of plotting lots of points, but it's exactly the same. So we've got the red, green, and blue channel now. We have 3 colors. If you understand the color wheel, I have a free training on this. You can start to mix and recreate any color you want. That's all you need to know. These 3 colors, if we play with them enough, we can create any color we want. So we can say, if we put heaps of green in the highlights, we're pretty green, and then we can put lots of blue in the highlights as well, and then we're a bit more of like a turquoise. And if you just look at the color wheel, you can start to understand what color you are affecting. And then it is also works in terms of brightness, just like we went over, where it is darks on the left, brights on the right. Up is how much, down how much darker you want. But in terms of color, so you are adding in the color or you are subtracting that color. So I've got a full training on this that goes very in depth and very sciencey into, and that will be linked down in the description if you haven't watched that. Okay, but that's really it. By understanding that, so you can affect any color in any area of your image and any brightness of any area in your image. So what's hard is actually knowing how to use these curves. Like, it's one thing to understand what they do, but using them will take a lot of practice and understanding what they do, so you can go and create a style with them is the next step you need to learn. So like, why do this in the curve where it's like real down in the highlights? Well, just real quickly in this video, because it gives this matted look that a lot of people like. So that's one technique. If we come across to another one, like, why do this in the curve? Why bring down here? Like, why darken? Because we are darkening the image. It gives a more cinematic look, and it is very different to working with the sliders up here. So this is just, I'm just trying to give you like a good idea of what's next in your learning, is the ways of using curves to create the styles you want. So this one, for example, why lift the black so much? It gives a really nice fade to these blacks here, okay? So there's a fade there. If we reset channel, you can see there's no fade. It can look a bit more like film sometimes, underexposed film. It can look nice. Or this one, for example, why bring the white point down so much? Because up here you can see these are the brightest areas. It gives a flattening, it darkens, and that can give quite a smooth cinematic look. So again, in this one, for example, down, do we want a creamy whites? It can look very filmic and nice if we just bring that down. And then this is one I see all the time, especially for people that really like the film look, is to do this in the curves. So that really brings down the highlights. And yeah, there's so many different examples. Like this one, again, big lift of the shadows, and then the color channels are just another whole beast in themselves. Like this one has slightly more green in the mid-tones. There is so much to cover that is not possible to cover in this video. So I've given you a very light overview of dark pixels over on your left, bright pixels are on the right. Your whole image is just a whole bunch of pixels that are black and white or in brightness. Forget about color for a second. Dark pixels on your left, bright pixels on your right. How much do we want to brighten? How much do we want to darken? And that's it. Like this one, for example. This image has heaps of contrast. So in the color channels, we are really doing a strong S-curve. That's how we get strong contrast in the image, because we are darkening the darks, brightening the brights. And then in this curve, we want that fade softness. So that's what we're doing there. But there really is, every style is very different depending on what is your style. Is it cinematic? Is it filmic? Is it soft and dreamy? Is it just professional and clean looking, like quite commercial looking, that it doesn't have a style, it just looks like a great looking image? So if we go over some of these images and we just reset or turn these off and on, you can see how much of effect a lot of these curves have. So off, on, you really do need to understand. So much more punch, so much more color, so much more smoothness, and so much more precision when using these tools. So these are really great edits from the guest editors teaching in the course, but you can see how different they are photo to photo. Even though they're all great looking edits and great looking photos, they're just all very different curves, because all these creators have very different styles, very different feelings to their style or their photography. Here's another one, just a straight curve. All these ones have S-curves. Very interesting to me when I started to look at all these curves, how people do curves. And yeah, you will not regret learning the curves if you're a photographer, because they will set you free into creating the styles you want, getting very clean looking, professional. So I didn't want to overcomplicate this video. Dark pixels on your left, bright pixels on your right. Up and down is how bright we want to make them. Down is how dark we want to make them. And then the color channels, any color, we can create any color with 3 colors. So we mix them, we put a little bit of red, we put a little bit of green. What color do we make? Just look at the color wheel, and then that's how people get these unique palettes to the editing. Once you get these basics down, then that's when you start to learn how to use curves with sliders and curves with HSL, and then the why behind these adjustments, and then how everything intertwines together to get consistent style and feed, because you've got to know this stuff. Why is there a little more blue than green? Why is that? Because there is a tactic, there is colors that we're trying to pull and remove to get the style. Okay, I didn't want to overcomplicate this. Free training, free presets, heaps of free stuff. I'll catch you in the next one.